The headline of this week's national interest is a car called Congress. Now, why that headline? So let's begin with Sonia Gandhi. She opened her Congress party's long delayed Chintan Shivir or introspection camp or introspection huddle in Udaipur with a call to reinvent the party. This leads us to four important questions. One, can the Congress, in its deepest trough or deepest pit for 8 years now, ever be reinvented? If so, what will it take to bring about that kind of dramatic transformation? Three, how important is it to have a pan-national opposition party when many regional parties and new forces are now rising to play the same role? Even so, if you need a national party like that, a pan-national party like that, can that pan-national party be only the Congress? Or can it also be a new alternative, maybe Aam Aadmi Party or some other? Why not? Now, there is another way of restate these questions, particularly if you remember what used to be the once ubiquitous ambassador car. Yaad hai na aapko? Ambassador car. It was as domineering a force in the limited Indian car bazaar, like a duopoly bazaar, ambassador and Premier Padmini, and there also the Sarkar, anybody with real power used the ambassador. It was the civil servants and business executives who waited for their turn to get their copy of the Premier Padmini. Now the ambassador was a domineering force in that limited Indian car bazaar, and it symbolized state power as much as the Congress party did for decades. By the late 1980s, as Maruti Suzuki grew, the first ones came out in 1982-83, but then as that car grew, it became more popular and other charming models invaded the Indian market, particularly following the 1991 reforms. The owners and management of Hindustan Motors could similarly have asked the following questions. First, can we reinvent the ambassador? Second, if so, what will bring about that transformation? Three, is it even necessary for India's car bazaar to have a nationally popular brand? There can be many brands. And fourth, even if India needs this, must it be only the ambassador? So all we have done is we've used the same questions as we used for the Congress, except we've replaced Congress with ambassador because we are looking at two products, two brands. One political, one a mere car. Now, remember also the many things Hindustan Motors tried to do to reinvent that car. They changed the exteriors, produced more air-conditioned models, and when they found that the engine was not able to take the load with an air conditioner or air conditioner wasn't effective enough, a Japanese engine was inserted. I think it was Isuzu, if I remember correctly. Drivers those days used to say, Ambassador car ke andar abhi Isuzu ka engine laga hua hai, because Suzuki was more popular brand. So I think it was an Isuzu engine. So a new Japanese engine was inserted, more powerful, but nothing could save the ambassador. Nothing. Put the Congress party to the same ambassador test, and you have the answer for the first two questions. Number one, it isn't possible to reinvent a brand so out of date. All you've done already, that's with the Congress party, has failed. Most of the new things the Congress has tried have already faded away. The latest evidence is the absence in Udaipur of the young Gujarati leader Hardik Patel, who the Congress had inducted as a young radical party chief imported from outside, a radical student leader, in what was seen as a big shift in a conservative party. New alliances have failed, whether with Mamata Banerjee and the left in Bengal, JDS in Karnataka, with RJD in Bihar, TDP in Telangana, and most significantly and recently with Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh. The failure of the alliances has been so devastating that the likely partners now see an alliance with the Congress party as the kiss of death. Rahul Gandhi let us know only recently how his party reached out to Mayawati in the lead up to the Uttar Pradesh elections, but did not get a response. Apply, no reply. Right? With almost all other parties in India, with the increasingly fidgety exception of Sharad Pawar's NCP and Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, Congress isn't seen as an alliance-worthy partner. It isn't seen as an alliance-worthy political power. Congress has tried much else to reinvent itself and failed. A hard turn left, Ambani Adani Sarkar, Jump to an anti-corruption platform, Chaukidar Chor hai. Visits to temples, talk of being led by a Janev-wearing, a Janev-dhari Brahmin of the hallowed Dattatreya Gotra. No less, Priyanka Gandhi has been thrown in the campaign. Nothing has worked. New leaders have been tried in key states, Navjot Singh Sidhu in Punjab, most notably and most infamously. It's all failed. The short answer to the first two questions, therefore, is that just like the ambassador car of the early 1990s, Congress, the brand, and the political product cannot be reinvented. Is it then even needed? Should it just fade away in history as it's been doing lately and vacate the anti BJP space for worthier successors? These are rude arguments when the best minds in the party are brainstorming in Udaipur. But then, how do you even begin to do a serious introspection without first accepting the enormity of the challenge? If you don't accept the diagnosis just because you don't like what you see, it's a terrible diagnosis, how can you think of a treatment or a prognosis? You first have to accept the reality. All we are doing is reading out the reality. You can't keep on declare victory, invincibility, and indispensability on Twitter. That's a joke. Now, that brings us to questions 3 and 4. Now, surely, whether one is needed or not, there will always be one dominant pan-national brand of cars. It will keep shifting. It will not be the same brand for a long time. Different people will jostle for that space. Different brands will jostle for that space. It is just that it can be Maruti now, Hyundai tomorrow, Toyota the day after, Mahindra, Tata, and so on, maybe Tesla someday. In each category of cars, there will be a dominant model also, but that space also will be contested hotly. Only those who constantly change and reinvent, will survive. But one that is so dated that even its name, its brand reeks of obsolescence, like say the ambassador, has no chance of reinvention. So where do you go? From there? The way ahead for the Congress, therefore, is the same as might have been the case for the makers of the ambassador car in the early 90s. Surprise the market with a brand new product, not a new, improved, reinvented old one. You can't reinvent a brand that is so broken as the ambassador was then and the Congress is now. You ought to invent, not reinvent. You got to invent a new one, a new product and a new brand. Because if you don't do that, if you won't do that, then the fourth question in our list would haunt you, which is that Indian democracy needs a strong pan-national opposition party to challenge the BJP, if nothing else, to keep some balance in our politics, if not to replace the BJP in the immediate future. But like the ambassador in the 1990s, it no longer has to be the Congress. It can be another party, another product, another brand. The process has been on for 3 decades now. That is the fading away of the Congress. That's been on for 3 decades now. Beginning with the caste-based parties taking away the secular and underclass vote in the heartland. You remember Mayawati's BSP, SP in UP, RJD, and Janata Dal in Bihar. In state after state, the party has lost its vote share to determined upstarts. Many of these its own rebels. Think Mamata Banerjee, Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy, Himanta Biswa Sarma, and now there is the rapidly creeping acquisition of its remaining vote banks in several states by AAP as well. Here are the limitations that the Congress has. It cannot change its brand name, just as it can't change its top leadership. Now, people keep saying, let Gandhis go away, party will be resurrected. It's not going to happen because without the Gandhis, the party will not survive. Now, tinkering, modifications, repainting, repositioning, alliances, return to ideological roots on social or economic issues have all been tried, failed, and will continue to fail. What's the future then? Why should the party waste time brainstorming in Udaipur then? Should India's oldest party then dissolve itself? Obviously, that isn't anybody's advice or wish, most certainly not mine. An opposition Mukt Bharat will be a calamity. A Congress Mukt Bharat will take us 3/4 of the way already to an opposition Mukt Bharat. That's why even Seshadri Chari, former editor of Organizer and a prominent mind from the saffron corner of the political akhada, he wishes the Congress survives and grows. His prescription is, however, that the party should split. Now, the fact is, the Congress party is not new to splits, especially since the mid 1960s. At various points of time, so many factions have broken away: Congress O, Congress J, Congress S, Congress R, Nationalist Congress Party, NCP, CFD, that is Congress for Democracy. So many have gone away that we would have thought that they will run out of the English alphabet for suffixes for new factions or new breakaway groups of the Congress party. The question today is, if it splits now, who takes what away and leaves what behind? That's a question. Over the past decade, the Gandhi family has lost a number of established leaders already. It's been a split in slow motion in the Congress party. Congress party as it exists now is beyond survival, reinvention, or resurrection. The only way forward is to create something new, not in the image of the glorious past, but a brand new product looking at the future. So use your 20% vote share as like starting capital and launch a new product. Go easy on Nehru, Indira, Rajiv, freedom movement, etc. Nobody beyond the 20% or so who still back you will vote for your past, and 20% will not take you anywhere. You cannot bring the ambassador car, however souped up, back. Only building a completely new something might still give you a chance, but do it fast if you really want to do it. The island you've been sitting on is fast eroding in a raging flood in this river.